One is a crusty bus station, and the other one is a busty crustacean.
A crusty bus station. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Sass The Beard. We are here, and we are having fun in the Offbeat Times studio. Every time we come in here, it's just a lot of fun. If you are thinking about hosting a podcast or any kind of video media presentations, you need to get in touch with the folks at Offbeat Times because they're a lot of fun to work with, and they do great work, and the production value is awesome.
And they tell funny dad jokes before the show.
Absolutely, yes.
And if you are in here, then you get to work in this lovely studio that's been decorated by our sponsors for this week, Plant Parlor.
Mm-hmm.
There are some very cute plants with, like, they have the most unique and, like, creative planters and things like that. I mean, I am not good at keeping plants alive, but I want to give it a try because I could get it in a golden ass.
You like plant butts and you cannot lie.
That's very true.
Yes.
Very true.
So this week is very short show. There are some things that we are working on for the future when it comes to local happenings, but there wasn't like a ton of stuff going on in our local area. We've covered a lot of things that have happened, and this week was just kind of like normal.
It was normal, and we actually get to come in and talk about some positive things, which is so nice.
I know, like, people always say to us, like, how come y'all don't ever talk about the positive things? And we do.
But then
like, we share them
bored.
a lot. But, like, also, like, nobody, that's not the stuff that people share or
People
comment.
show up for the tea.
Yeah.
We do have some tea for the end of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't be a Sass and the Beard show without just a little bit of tea. But some great things happening in our Russellville community. If you've seen any posts from the city, like City Parks social media pages, you've seen the new splash pad that was built at City Park by the Hughes Center on Parkway. You've seen the Hickey Pool is completed and will be open on Memorial Day weekend, which is this weekend.
That is so exciting because, you know, that was something that was very unsure for a while.
Yeah,
like,
it could not have happened.
Yeah, you and I had some really strong opinions about that and really kind of tried to help push public, get the public involved in it. And fortunately, I think the public spoke up and said that we want to keep this in our community. We don't want to shut it down. And so the city stepped up and repaired it. It's going to be great. It's going to be kind of like a whole new scene.
A lot of the folks in that ward really kind of reached out to their council members and made a change, because there was a fear at some level that because that the city had the aquatic center, they might, step away from even keeping Hickey Pool open.
Well, and there were a couple of council members who really were pushing for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a possibility.
Yeah. And so I'm very thankful that the city spent good money on renovating that pool, and so it will be open this weekend for those of you across the city. Another thing that's going to happen, I've been asked several times about this, is if you've driven on Knoxville near the Russellville High School, you've seen some construction and people have been like, what's that about? And they are going, like, the city is going to literally be reconstructing sidewalks and increasing tenfold the walkability from the neighborhood kind of behind the Russellville School District all the way down to Main Street. And it will end in a like a walking bridge over the train tracks there at 4th Street. And so that process is going to take a while, but they've started there near the school so that at least that part of the...
Is this the fixing the sidewalks to nowhere issue?
No, it is fixing the dangerous, like, walk to school for a significant number of...
That's very important too. Yeah. I was thinking there were some connected...
Well, that's the trails. So this will connect. Yeah, at some level, this will connect to the trail system, which
Okay.
are the sidewalks to nowhere. Yes. And so like there are different phases of like schoolhouse trails. We just finished phase 2 of, on the western side of town. And then on the eastern side, this will be a main connector to that school trail feed. But the main importance of this project is to make it safer for people walking in that part of town to get to school. So,
well, it's nice to see our government doing something to make children safer that actually is likely to have the intended result.
Right. We're not just like griping about dudes in dresses at this
Right.
point. Yeah. So like we want to, make sure that our children are safe in our community by providing them safe pathways to get places.
Mm-hmm. And not just kids. There's a lot of people walking
adults.
up and down. I mean, you see people walking through there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Citizens in general. It's not all for the kids, but a lot of it is. So, one thing that's not for the kids is the city of Russellville voted at this last month's meeting to give stipends to part-time and full-time employees. And it was a pretty significant stipend. I was pretty proud to be able to vote for that. And I know that you don't like the word stipend.
I think that stipends are a great way to reward people outside of their normal pay for good work done, right?
Yes, yeah.
I do think that they're great for that. I don't think they're a good substitute for a raise.
Absolutely.
Where we see that happen a lot, where like government may be concerned about future revenue and how to afford that, and personnel is a big expense.
Yes.
And so a lot of times we'll see these stipends, which is like a one-time bump, but it's not actually a raise that they'll be able to build on in the future. And so that's kind of my thing with the stipends is they're good, but they're not a raise.
Yeah. Well, and so like I'm on the personnel committee, for the city. And so, we had discussed this, the mayor came to the personnel committee and said, I would love to do raises. We're not sure what's in our budget. How can we work this out? And so we met with the finance director. And so right now we are kind of living upon a budget that we didn't set. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the only time that we as a council really kind of have to abide by constraints that were not set by us. Mm-hmm. And that we can't really change.
And that's for people who aren't familiar. That's because the budget was set at the end of last year by the previous council. Yes. Then many of you were elected and came into office in January. Yes. So this year you'll create a new budget towards the end of the year and have a little more flexibility.
Yes. And be able to kind of choose in a certain sense, like 80% of our budget is uniformed employees. So like police and fire, and now also EMS. And so, this was not for those employees. Like they got a raise before. And so, this will be for the non-uniformed employees within the city. So like public works, administrative, people at those, places with uniform. So like, administrative assistants, people that work in those places that aren't in a uniform. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to get $1,000 stipend if they're full-time, and if they're part-time, it's a $500 stipend. And then next year we have a goal I don't say we, like I personally, and I would assume that the mayor, since that's how he came to us with this originally, will have a goal to look into where are we from our budgeting standpoint and how much of a raise could we offer to employees of the city. Because my personal goal, if I do have any agenda in running for office, is the people that the city employs. If we expect employers and manufacturers and other businesses to come into our town and provide a significant living wage, and we are not doing the same thing, like it's kind of like do as I say, not as I do. Mm-hmm. And so I would like for us as the city to provide a good model of what any other business could come into town and provide.
Yeah, no, I think that's great to see from the city that, lead by example and all that. But my thing is just that, we've talked previously about some officials like the city attorney who are looking for pretty significant raise
Right.
to stay on staff. And so, just as long as we see the regular people getting raises,
Yes. Yeah.
if we see the regular people only getting stipends, then I hope we also see the elected officials only getting stipends. I would be very concerned to see raises for elected officials and stipends for
Yes,
the city
absolutely.
employees.
I am also not for that.
So I'm just
personally.
giving you a heads
Yeah.
up that I will be a huge pain in the ass if that's how it goes. Because we want to see people get, paid a living wage for their work.
For sure. Absolutely. And especially in this time where, inflation has caused such a issue nationally, and not even including what could potentially happen in our, future nationally with, whatever it is, it's shutdowns or debt ceilings or whatever, that is going to, I was literally reading a newsletter sent to me by the state, here's the commission for governance, saying this is how the debt ceiling, if we default, how it could affect your city. And one of the number one ways is the loss of income for people could totally mess up, sales tax receipts because they're not shopping as much. It could mess with any kind of short-term financing that we may do as a city to pay for, construction, which we don't do a lot of because, our tax dollars, we have to kind of zero out our budget. So we have money for a lot of projects that we're doing. But from time to time, I know the county for sure sometimes borrows money to pay back, on short-term projects. And this is all affecting what could happen for day-to-day stuff. And so we've got to make sure that we give our people enough positive interaction with their day-to-day. And that's what politics is good for, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's part of what I like with local is that you do have an opportunity to fix things in a way as an individual or as a small group versus with national issues where it's so big you can't, it's just impossible almost to influence it as an individual. But I always like to say that if you get 10 of your friends to cyberbully the mayor, you can really get some things done.
I'm sure Mayor Fred would appreciate that,
I'm here for it. That's what they think we do anyway. But, and you and I have been talking about potential policy ideas and things that could be good for the community. There are things out there that other communities are doing that are having great success. And I think it's exciting to be able to look at these things for Russellville and say, it's kind of like, I like the thing you said in the Sarah Sanders meeting about LEARNs. You said, what are we doing that reflects what the best schools are doing?
Yes, absolutely.
The states with the best education, how are we reflecting that in Arkansas? And we have that same opportunity in this community right now with younger, more, progressive, more open-minded leadership on the city council, that I think we have an opportunity to look at our code of ordinances and say, how can we reflect what is happening in the best cities in Arkansas and in the country?
Well, and in terms of housing, in terms of transportation and walkability, in terms of just safety and basic usage of city services, how can we look at what cities across the state and country are doing that are doing them well and implement those same things? We're not talking about reinventing the wheel. We're not talking about any radical overhaul of systems or changing government structures. We're literally just talking about how the day-to-day operations of local government, which affect people more than any other form of government, can do it better.
Well, yeah, I sent you one not that long ago from Fayetteville that had passed that was about how they enforce, how they handle enforcement of possession of small amounts of marijuana, and looking at, the city's ability to change penalties to determine if, anyone should, and this is only at a certain level, right? The city can't do anything with felony issues, but misdemeanors, they have more flexibility on how they carry out enforcement of those. And so, just a decision to not put people in jail for small possession charges that are not connected to any other crimes, things like that, that we can consider as a community and say, is this good?
Yeah.
You know, a boring one that I really want to push for that I haven't got you to bite on yet, but I really want to push for is a like clawback ordinance that would allow us to claw back incentives to corporations if they don't fulfill their part.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an answer to what everybody has been so frustrated with the convention center.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we'd had that kind of thing in place, we would have had a better avenue to claw back all the money that went out the door and then wasn't fulfilled by the person who made that commitment. And so, or the entity that made that commitment.
Right.
So anyways, those are just a couple of examples, but there are so many things out there that communities are doing. And I think we always love to hear from people who may have lived elsewhere or seen things elsewhere and have suggestions, because, you know, we're all in this together.
Yes, absolutely. Let us know what you would like to see the city government do for you as a citizen. Please keep out bringing Red Lobster. Like, we don't have any control over that. Like, Red Lobster.
Shut up, Nathan. That's my first suggestion.
Target, like, my wife is like, when are you going to bring a Target? And, like, listen, Target's not coming until the median household income level is $48,000 a year. So, if you work for a business already in town, if you own a business already in town, start paying people more, and let's get that median income up, because right now it's at like 38, 39, and they look at that kind of stuff and they go, well, they don't have enough money to spend here in Russellville, so we end up driving to Conway to spend the money in Target. And
right, but I mean, that's just how business works, right?
Yes,
and so you individually or as a council can't necessarily fix some of those things. You can't fix everything, right? But the areas where you can, I think there's a lot of potential right now for Russellville. I think we're really have good things happening here, and it's nice to see.
I'm super excited.
But if we step over to Pottsville,
oh my gosh, yeah, there's, you know,
not to say that there's
it's not anything to do with Pottsville.
They're not their government.
You know,
there's probably lots of good things happening in Pottsville as well. But
they got a Sonic recently.
They did get a Sonic. Yes, growing over there, Dollar General, Sonic.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like these things come in pairs, Dollar Generals and Sonics, so it's going to be good. The have I told you what I call Dollar General the herpes of the South?
Oh my gosh,
they're the worst for local economies. But anyways, side note. So in Pottsville recently, if you've been following along, there was a coach, Lindsay Hill, who was arrested and charged for an inappropriate relationship with a student. Apparently was later charged with a second charge, and now has been charged with a third charge in connection to inappropriate relationships with another student. This is now a third charge. And, you know, it's really just mind-blowing that something like this can go on in a school at this scale and not have been caught earlier. It's almost like when politicians pass bills saying that they are really concerned about protecting children, that really it's more about a political posturing thing than it is about actually keeping kids safe.
Like,
because
they
I have
pull books out of libraries, but not teachers out of.
I mean, I haven't seen any drag queens getting arrested for 3 counts of inappropriate sexual contact with a child, but teachers, this just seems, I mean, and you know, just seems to be happening, and not just teachers. This is always
youth pastors.
If there are people in positions of power, you are going to have
politicians,
things like politicians, right?
Yeah.
It's always going to happen. But I mean, this blows my mind. How does a teacher have allegedly three separate sexual relationships with students, and it just happens, and nobody and doesn't get caught? That blows my mind. Scary.
Well, and then we had the male coach from Dardanelle, that is still going through these, he's in jail.
Yeah.
And is going through, but there were multiple situations there too. And I just think like we see in the church world, the school, there is some culture of not so much sweep under the rug, but move it out of our area and give it to somebody else, so that we don't have to deal with that problem. But really, the problem is not the person. The problem that the school needs to deal with is the pain and suffering that these kids are going through, and they're getting no justification and no justice and no help in having to deal with the struggles that they've gone through, because this person just gets pushed aside as, we don't want to deal with that.
Right, or if they get close to getting caught, they resign and go to a different school, and then there's this whole issue of not having that accountability once they change schools. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think that there's a lot more that needs to be done, and you know, there's a lot that politicians can do to fix that, but also just as parents and caregivers, like, we have to be careful and protect our kids, man. And I know everybody is doing their best to do that. It's hard. Look, this last week of school, my son got suspended the last week of school. I couldn't believe it. But, you know, kids are just, raising kids is tough.
It is tough, you know, and like my wife and I have debates all the time about decisions, you know, like, are we going to let her go on a sleepover? You know, no, like, that's like, we do not do sleepovers. Because
right,
statistically, like, that's when things like that happen.
Yeah.
And there are a ton of things like that as a parent. But here's my issue. Like, we saw this at Lamar. You know, a parent got involved and said, this thing is happening. And they were fought at every level. And so we see this happening over and over. Where's the administration? Where's the school board? Where are the people, the teachers that, I know people in Dardanelle that have said XYZ thing happened before this coach. You know, I know, you know, in any local area school, you either hear rumors or you have people go to an administrator and say, this thing happened. And where is the push? You know, does it need to be from the community? Should it be from the people who are hired to be mandated reporters? You know, like, there are teachers out there who take this stuff seriously.
Oh yes, and absolutely,
that really care. And
and definitely not trying to paint like that. There's all these bad teachers out there. There's so many good teachers. But when you see something like this happen with people who every day are responsible for our children, it is very scary. So let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know what you do to help keep your kids safe with everything that's going on today, especially with, like, you know, online and just social media, all the different things. So let us know how you go about keeping your kids safe. And I think that's probably all we have for today.
We really appreciate you guys watching the show. We hope that you check out our sponsor, Plant Parlor, and definitely keep in touch with Offbeat Times online at offbeattimes.com, on all the social medias, and Sass the Beard here on Facebook Live and YouTube. And we thank you so much. Share this video with your friends. We'll see you guys next week.